Hello! Hey, welcome to the Sydenham Arts Podcast, where we talk all things Sydenham, Lewisham and beyond. We are very excited to have you here tonight. I'm your host, Angela Eyton, and tonight we are joined by three spectacular guests. We have the wonderful musician and sound artist, Roshi Nasehi, the brilliant Nick O'Shea from Ignition Brewery, and we have Maria Oshodi from Extant. We also have a special guest appearance for you this evening, very exciting, and we find out who has been crowned the ultimate living legend of the week. Yes, and that is quite a crown to wear. For those of you watching via the live stream tonight, hello, hey, give us a hi if you like in the chat. It's always very nice to know that you're out there. And just remember, if you have any questions for any of our guests throughout the show, pop them in the chat and we will be asking them as we go. Before we meet our first guest tonight, I have an apology to make. Last week, during my interview with Julie Chung in Hin, I referred to Animal Crossing as a trading game. Since then, somebody has written in, understandably outraged by my ignorance towards Animal Crossing, and I thought it was important that I apologised to all the Animal Crossing fans out there. I have since learnt the error of my ways, and I now realise that Animal Crossing is more than just a trading game, and for some it's a way of life. So apologies there. Obviously I've never played it. That's the honest truth. Sorry. Okay, so time that we went over to our first guest. Now, she is a Welsh-born musician with Iranian parentage. She's a sound artist with a strong track record in performance, recording, collaboration, public art and social intervention projects. Her records have been played across BBC Radio 3 and Six Music. Mixmag twice awarded her Experimental Record of the Month, describing her as one of the most singular voices working at the moment. And if you listen to any of her work, you will understand why. She's had loads of commissions and she's currently working on one for the Sydenham Arts Centre called Wellness Park, which starts tomorrow. Here to tell us a bit more about her fabulous work, yes, it's the one, the only, Roshi Nasehi. Hey, hello, Roshi.
Hi, what an intro. Hi.
Yeah, no problem. Well, yes, you deserve that intro. That's you.
I don't
There
know
was
if I
loads
can live
more.
up to it.
Sorry.
I don't know if I can live up to quite a big intro, but I'm very happy to be here.
Uh, well, I think you can live up to it. There was loads more stuff that we could have said about you, to be fair. That's actually all things that you've done. So, we're glad that you're here as well. Thank you so much for joining us tonight to talk about all the amazing things that you're doing. So, you spent a lot of lockdown wandering the green spaces of London, but largely Lewisham and Sydenham, including Wells Park, which inspired you to create Wellness Park for the Sydenham Arts Centre. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about that project that you have coming up.
Yeah, so it kind of has already started in a way, actually. The first workshops are tomorrow and the day after, if people would like to sign up for them. But yeah, I think like many other people, I was using my kind of permitted daily outing to try and take advantage of the local green spaces. That felt like a really nice thing to do, and it felt like a particularly important thing for me to do because I have a little boy who has autism, and he's the very kind of sensory seeking end of the spectrum, so he's very kind of rambunctious and he's always kind of running and climbing and jumping, and so yeah, kind of going to local parks were really important to us. And Wells Park definitely became one of our favourites, and I it kind of dawned on me that, you know, it's a park that historically people were making pilgrimages to anyway, because it had medicinal springs there from at least the 17th century. And, you know, it felt a bit like we were sort of making pilgrimages there as well, for different reason. It was kind of a different therapeutic effect of just kind of being there, and in other green space as well, but it was definitely one of our favourites. And just bathing our senses really in it. And I think because it was kind of spring and summer that we've been locked down, yeah, it was massively important, and that's kind of what inspired the project really.
Yeah, and so are you, you've got a couple of workshops coming up, and are you going to take stuff from the workshop to include in the soundscape, or have you already been collecting a sound for that?
Yeah, so I've been, you know, doing site visits anyway, and from that I have been doing some field recording. People might sort of see me there doing kind of very nerdy things with microphones, kind of, there's a creaky swing that I really like the sound of, so I was recording that, and just, recording other kind of natural sounds. There were some baby coots that kind of emerged, which was really lovely, so I recorded them. But also getting some really good interviews. So there's Sarah who runs the cafe there. She runs a cafe from a van there, and I had a really lovely interview from her. And I think the park, it feels like a bit of a community hub really, and things that sort of come up with for people are that. It doesn't seem quite as gentrified as maybe some of the other parks in Lewisham, that it's kind of retained a sort of feeling of lots of different people. It's quite a mixed demographic there, and lots of different people using it, and lots of different people using it in different ways. So it's got a kind of leisure park vibe, and it's got kind of a basketball court, and it's got kind of that stuff going on. But then it's got kind of big kind of nature reserve area as well, and then it's got this whole kind of historical aspect to it. There's a really nice bit of social history that I found out while interviewing Monica, who's part of the Friends group. So apparently in the 80s there was kind of a bit of a sort of squat and party scene around the park, and there were houses that people moved into that would have just been dust really if people hadn't moved into them. And I think council were trying to, I mean, obviously we're very grateful to our council, but at the time they were, I think, trying to demolish those flats and those houses and turn them into flats. And I believe the Longton Avenue Association was formed as a result of this, and I think they managed to negotiate so that the gardens are now were kind of integrated into the park. So, and that's a really nice bit of social history. I found a really lovely film of a party from 1989 on YouTube, which has got some local bands playing. There's a band called Ariba. It'd be great to find out more about this. So if there are people who are listening who kind of went to those parties, or who kind of know about this bit of social history, who are involved in like the Longton Avenue Association, I'd love to kind of find out more about that, and I'd really like that to be part of the piece. So the idea is that people can listen to the piece as they're walking around the park, and it'll kind of enhance their experience of walking around it. There'll be another version that's a kind of standalone version that people can listen to at home as just like a radio piece, but the idea is that there'll be the main version will be the version that you can kind of walk around the park, and it'll kind of enhance your experience of being there.
Yeah, that's cool, because I mean, just thinking as you're talking that how often are you in a space without really thinking about it historically, especially in a space of nature, because you kind of you're experiencing being outdoors, and but you might not necessarily sort of think historically how that space came to be, or, what it could have been at some point, that it could have been very different at some point. So how do you decide what goes into a soundscape? Because I was listening to your the work that you did for Quietus, and it's so varied. You have very specific bird song, for example, and then you have dialogue from adorable wishes and dreams and things like that, and it's so broad. And I just wondered, how do you decide what goes into something like that?
I think for that project and also this project, I really wanted it to be kind of quite collaborative. I didn't want to sort of, that was a British Council commission. I was very lucky to have it. It was a really kind of lovely commission, like interesting commission to get. But I didn't want it to be that I've kind of flown to Kuwait and this is something that I'm just sort of doing, and it's not particularly, it could be anywhere, it's not kind of relevant to people who are there. So I wanted it to be, and I think it, it's a public art commission, and the thing about public art is that, it can be problematic in that it can be quite confrontational if you shove a sculpture in the middle of a public place. But I think the alternative is that those things are always sort of locked away somewhere. So I think it's definitely nice to kind of get stuff out. So it's not a kind of niche thing that you have to go to kind of an art centre to see. But then I think so that it doesn't feel really confrontational, it's quite nice if you can make it in quite a collaborative way. So equally with this, it is from things like chatting to people that I'm discovering bits of social history that I didn't know about, for instance. So some of it is being steered by that, and some of it is my own experience of being there, and my little boy, kind of observing him and how much he loves it, and the, sort of particular things that he does when he's there. But I want it to be as kind of consultative and collaborative as possible, and that's a way of working that I really like. That's a way of working that's kind of been really nice in the past on other projects that I've worked on. So it was really lovely, for instance, to kind of meet those like young people in Kuwait and talk to them about their dreams and wishes and stuff, and
I particularly liked when someone said they needed a cute little sister. Very important.
Universal, So we could all do with one of those, but.
So, do you kind of so thinking on collaboration and things like that, is it so you might see something that your son's taking joy out of, for example, and be like, okay, that would be something that I'd include, for like you're saying with the swing. Is it because you'd think, not just that makes a good sound, but I've seen someone enjoying that, so that's kind of there's like an emotion attached to that sound as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think it wants to be a marriage of all those things, really. So I'm definitely have a kind of nerdy sound artist hat on some of the time, and that does enhance your experience of being there. It's a kind of sensory experience for all of us. It's particularly sensory for my little boy because that's something that he's seeking. But I think it is that for all of us. But yeah, I think there are definitely other levels. Kind of. Other things that are sparked, and I kind of, one of the first times I went there during lockdown, I noticed a couple of people just spontaneously having a chat, and it's been a really disconnecting time for us, and these spaces have been really important, I think, for us. They've been about the only community spaces that we've had access to, and they're still really important, even though things are starting to open up. I think those places are still kind of the kind of least restricted places in some ways, because it's the safest, really. You can be from a distance with other people there, and I noticed an older woman and a younger woman were having a chat, and they were sort of chatting away, and the younger woman was saying, do you mind me asking how old you are, and this kind of stuff, and it was very lovely, and I think there's a sense of it, kind of working on all those levels, really. It has that kind of sensory side to it and that kind of community hub kind of side to it, and I really hope I can capture all of that in the piece, so that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'd like it to kind of be, something that brings people together a bit and reconnects us all a bit, because it's been such a sort of disconnecting time.
Yeah, and the kind of the importance of community has been really relevant over this time. I think it's been something that you can't help but notice. It's been very important. I've spoken to so many people that are like, I actually speak to my neighbours now, and things like that. So it's
that's been a part of your show, I guess. It's been kind of one of the things that you've been doing with your show, is kind of bringing in community leaders and kind of really making it about the local area and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it has been really important, and I think it has sparked up some, there've been a few kind of positive things that have come out of it like that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of lockdown, we asked you to bring along one object that symbolises lockdown for you. Do you have that one object with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly predictable. It's a plant. It's a
Ah,
plant. It's fairly predictable because, I mean, I think, that kind of natural world thing has been a big part of my lockdown. This one I bought from the plant sale in Sydenham Wells Park. So I went along to the plant sale to meet the friends of the park. I had a really lovely interview with Monica, and I bought this plant off them. And I've been doing, so I think we have a small garden and a small balcony, and they're small and shady and north facing. So it's lovely to have the parks. But, it's been nice to sort of do a bit of that, and, for my little boy to sort of have his watering can and things like that. So yeah, so this is an indoor plant. I can't remember exactly which one it is. It's a succulent, and there'll be red flowers later in the year. So it's an indoor plant, but it's been quite happy on the balcony, which is quite nice. So that's my object.
ah. When you said it was predictable, I actually, that wasn't what I thought you were going to produce. I thought you were going to produce something related to sound, so I was ready for that, but no.
Or something that nearby, you might well sort of see me in the park with massive headphones like yours, and a kind of hard disk recorder. If anyone does see me, like, please come and say hello, and maybe I can grab a soundbite off them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And we'll know what you're doing now as well, which would be great.
What is that very nerdy person sort of doing? That is quite interesting, actually, because I think if you take a photo, nobody thinks anything at all of it. But if you're making a recording of like a bird in a tree or something, people do still find that quite strange. So I think that's quite interesting because they're very sort of similar things to do, really, in a way,
Yeah, definitely. But something that less people do, actually, recording.
Yeah, I'm crap at taking photos, so really I'm better off kind of sort of giving that job to somebody else and focusing. If I take photos, it's kind of someone's arm or like someone's forehead's missing or something like that. So
So you're making up for it with the sound, to be fair.
yeah, it's definitely my talents definitely lie in that and not in photo taking. So.
Well, speaking of community as well, we have a couple of our younger listeners that have written some questions that they really want to ask grown-ups. So this is from Jazz and Holly, who are 8 and 6, and they would like to know, where is your favourite holiday place?
I was so lucky. I was able to go to Iceland during lockdown, which was very, very lucky. And Iceland was kind of amazing. And I think one of the reasons I liked it was because it's a bit like Scotland and how I would imagine Mars to be kind of mixed together. Got kind of lava fields and things like that in Iceland from all the volcanoes. And yeah, I've always loved Scotland, and I grew up in Wales by the sea. So that kind of whole kind of west coast of the UK, I think, is really nice. And it was nice to go kind of even further west to to Iceland. So yeah, I think those are probably my sort of favourite group of places. Those kind of very
amazing.
sort of sea and mountains and just really breathtaking and waterfalls and things like that.
Definitely a good holiday place. There you go, Jazz and Holly. Thank you. Thank you, Roshi. Okay, and well, unbelievably, that's all we've got time for. So, but it's not goodbye. It's not goodbye yet. We ask you just to pop into the waiting room while we prepare our special guest. But thank you, Roshi. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. My absolute pleasure. Thank you. And we'll see you very shortly.
Yeah, and just again, if people want to join in with the workshops tomorrow and the day after, so we've got a couple of people who've joined up, but then there are other people saying that they'd like to, but they can't do those times. So we may do bigger workshops later, but if loads of people sign up tonight, then we might do those and then some more later. So yeah, there's a few people joined up, but there's definitely spaces. So.
Oh, and on that, I did wonder, do people, do they have to be musically gifted in any way or to do these workshops?
Not at all. I think they're going to they'll probably involve something like a quiz, I found an old poem based on the park from the 17th century. I'd like to mess around with that. I'd like to obviously record people kind of just sharing memories and stuff. So it'll be kind of a big mix of activities. Be nice to make some soundscapes. So we were thinking that anyone can join any workshop, but we were thinking Saturday might be nice for families because kids won't be in school. And tomorrow we were thinking if there were older people, they could join up. Tomorrow is afternoon, sort of 1:30-ish, and Saturday's 11. And all the details are on the website, on the Sydenham Arts website.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Great. Fingers crossed for some more people. Thank you, Roshi. See you in a minute. Yes, brilliant. So you can go to sydenhamarts.co.uk and it's What's On, and you can book onto any of Roshi's workshops there and be a part of Sydenham history, really. Great. So for our next segment, unbelievably, once again, a very generous Hollywood legend has given up some of his time for the Sydenham Arts podcast. There are rumours that he used to live in Sydenham and Forest Hill, a double local. His voice is so gravelly that his mother banned him from playing in the local sandpit. Although now he spends most of his time in Beverly Hills, he has vowed never to forget his South East London roots, and has kindly taken time out of his busy, packed schedule to record some songs for us. All our guests have to do is listen to the song that he has recorded and tell me what the song is. There is a point for artist, song title, and the year of the song, and they can buzz in for all those 3 points at once. The first person to buzz in gets to try answering for those 3 points. Okay, if someone hesitates, then the other person can just get right in there and steal. Okay, so we have our second guest ready. Nick O'Shea in the waiting room. Roshi Nasehi is eagerly waiting in the wings to play. Jason Statham sings to the nation. Jason Statham sings to the nation. Hey, hello. Welcome back, Roshi, and welcome, Nick. How are you?
Very well, thank you. See you.
Good. And are you clear on the rules of Jason Statham Sings to the Nation?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes. Now, we need, in order to hear who gets to answer first, I need to hear your nominated buzzer sounds, please. So, Roshi, if you would like to give me your buzzer sound first.
So I stole this from my little boy. It's a shaky apple. I always thought these things were a little bit cruel because you kind of want to eat it, but it just makes a noise instead. So
layers to that buzzer, layers really. Okay, great. The shaky apple, the cruel shaky apple, brilliant. Thank you. And Nick, what have you got for us?
I've got a bell from the bar, so that's what I've got for you.
That's a proper buzzer. That's like a proper game show buzzer there.
Yep.
Could we hear it? Could you just? Okay, great. Okay. These two seem like they're ready. Have we got our first song lined up? Fantastic. Okay. In that case, without further ado, let's have our first song.
In the town where I was born lived a man who sailed to sea, and he told us of his life in a land of submarines.
Oh.
Oh, no buzz. No, that's all you're getting. That's all you get from Jason. Oh, we've got a shake. Yes. Okay, Roshi.
Could it be Yellow Submarine by the Beatles?
Yeah, it could be that. Absolutely. I wonder what gave that away. And do you have a year for me there?
I like that rendition of it a lot, actually. I thought it was quite an intense version of it, which,
He's quite an intense guy, though, isn't he, Jason? RJ. Do you have a year? Anyone got a year guess?
I'm going to steal with 68.
Nick. Oh, he's stolen. Oh, it's not 68.
Oh,
And he took it very well. He took it very well there, Nick. Okay, that's it. Well, it doesn't matter. Roshi, you're 2 points ahead. I can confirm it was Yellow Submarine, the Beatles. The year was 1966. You were so close, Nick. So close. Okay, but don't worry.
Right. I thought he had it right, actually. So.
bless you, Roshi. Bless you.
Yeah, well, that was kind, but he did not. But it's okay, you were close. And there's another opportunity coming up, okay? We ready for our next song? Okay, fab.
You have my heart, and we'll never be worlds apart, maybe in magazines, but you'll still be my star, baby, 'cause in the dark you can't see shiny cars, and that's when you'll need me there. With you, I'll always share, because...
Oh, Nick. Nick's buzzing
Yeah.
in. Nick has buzzed in. Yes, Nick, what are you going to go for?
Because when the sun shines, it shines forever. So I'll be your umbrella by Rihanna, or Rihanna, depending on where you're from. I'm going to go with 2007.
Oh, Nick, you're so close again. Do we have a steal from Roshi? Do we have a steal?
2008.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and it was a bit unfair because I sort of gave that away a little bit there. But yes, it was indeed 2008, which puts Roshi in the lead. 3 points to Nick's 2. It was a close one, guys. Very close game there. But Roshi is the champion this week of Jason Statham Sings to the Nation. Woohoo! Yeah! Congratulations. Thank you, Roshi. Thank you so much for joining us. This is where we say goodbye to Roshi and Nick. See you in a moment. And of course, once again, say a big thank you to Jason because, you know, you're a busy guy and giving up your time means a lot to us. So thank you. Thank you very much for giving us your beautiful tones there. Okay, so our second guest needs no introduction because you just saw them. They come to us from Ignition Brewery, which is right underneath the Sydenham Arts Centre, just in case you missed it. Ignition is a vibrant South London brewery which employs and trains people with learning difficulties to brew beer and to work in the venue. 94% of adults with learning difficulties in England are unemployed, according to NHS data from 2018. And they are classing adults as people aged from 18 to 64. So yes, Dad, you are an adult now. I'll pay for that later. Ignition listened to what people wanted and Ignition Brewery was born. So here to talk more about Ignition and their delicious beer is Nick O'Shea.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Nick. Good evening to you. How are you? Thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for coming right from your brewery as well. Appreciate that.
No problem at all.
And just remember, anyone that's watching tonight, if you'd like to ask Nick any questions, you can do via the chat, and hopefully he will answer them. So before we go into detail about Ignition, I saw that you're doing beer bingo. What is beer bingo?
Right, so beer bingo is your opportunity to win beer live in our brewery tap room. So we have a deluxe bingo machine, and all you have to do is get from that machine number 26, red 26, for that is our postcode, as we all know in Sydenham. And if you win that, then you win your beer. So we've had quite a few winners, actually, an implausibly high number.
You weren't expecting that.
No.
No. Oh, okay, that's great. So they win. Are there kind of limits on how much beer? So what if someone's buying like a case of beer, would they win that case? Or is it they're buying one beer, they win that beer?
So we are doing a promotion at the moment, which is 4 pints of beer for £16, and that's what you win. So if you come in for 1 pint, you could leave with 4, but if you come in for 8, you will still leave with 4. So that's what we're offering at our tap room at the moment.
Yeah, great. That's amazing. That's cool. Okay. Noted. Yes, and Mike has just popped a picture of Beer Bingo up on the screen for anyone that's watching at home there, and they look like they're having a lot of fun playing that, so that's great. So getting back to Ignition, could you sort of talk us through a bit about Ignition, what you do as a company, what inspired you to start Ignition, things like that?
Sure. So I think we're a responsible employer that makes great beer. That's really at the core of what we try and do. The idea is that people with learning disabilities have amazing talents, amazing brains, amazing gifts, but they're often obscured because we label them with the sort of, you've got a disability. And we thought, nope, let's set up a brewery. Why not? Never been to a brewery. Why? That sounds like fun. And so I know for the lols, but anyway, and then 5 years ago, we did that, and now we're here. We've had a tap room for 2 years. And the principles are really simple. We hire great people. We pay even the London living wage. We make great beer, and we just get people through the door and hopefully we did give them a great time in our tap room.
Yeah, and can people come in at the moment? They can't. I'm guessing, are you just doing takeaways, or are you open again now for?
Yeah, we've been extra cautious because our principal assets are our team. So, I can't replace them. So we've been very, very cautious. And we've been doing takeaway, as you said, and deliveries. I think the rule of 6 that came in yesterday really has put the end of that. So we've got a little film preview over the weekend, and that's our lot. And then next week it's back to deliveries and the old takeaway, because we've got to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, no, that's of course. But you're doing monthly deliveries, is that right? So how often are you doing deliveries now?
Epic knowledge. You know more than me. So yes,
I've
Will
been
handles
reading
that.
your website.
It's mid-month, and so again, I've just unfortunately got rid of my car. I've got a bike now, so there's a fleet of volunteers who are going to be delivering those, and people seem really happy when they arrive on the door. They give us a big wave, and they smile as it sort of crate of beer lands on their doorstep. So it's good fun. It's good fun.
Yeah, of course they do. It's a happy occasion, so for sure. And so, but are your team still coming in to brew beer and things like that, just under sort of COVID safe conditions?
That's right. So the brewing process itself is obviously very hygienic, because if you get any germs in your beer, you get bad beer, and we have good beer. So for that, it's actually been pretty easy, because essentially it's been, please put on a face mask, because they've already got gloves, aprons, hand sanitizer, hand wash, you name it, we've got it. It's more the sort of the bar element is where we've had to compromise and just say, we can keep everybody 2 meters away, but it becomes increasingly tricky as an evening goes on, I think.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's of course. So, but you've managed to survive over lockdown, so that's great. And you're still finding people are wanting beer? I mean, it's almost a silly question, really, but are you still finding that?
Yes, we've been very lucky, I have to say. I mean, I think we came into the pandemic in a strong financial position. We built up a lot of reserves, and we were sort of ready to go. So for that rainy day that we now face. And then also the sort of customers from Lewisham and sort of Sydenham in particular have been super loyal and super kind. So people have really supported us, and I'm hugely grateful for that. And then we got a small business grant from Lewisham Council, so that's a great win. Yeah, I was delighted. So so we're okay, steady as she goes, I think. But I think safety is our kind of number one priority, really, and that's what we want to make sure we use the money to do, really.
Yeah, no, of course. And so how can people support Ignition as a local business at the moment?
Well, you can send us your love. That's our number one goal. And then number 2 is, I think, just come in. We're open Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, roughly 4 till 7, roughly. And you'll find one of us on duty. And you can get takeaway beer in a bottle, or you can get it, if you bring a bottle, we'll fill it. And then also on Twitter and Instagram, which I am less familiar with, because I'm in my 40s. But basically, you can find out how to get to us. And then at Christmas, and I hate to use the word Christmas because it is only September, we're going to be doing quite a big sort of push in terms of merchandise, because we've realised that people won't be able to shop in the same way as they would have done in previous years. So we think actually we've got quite good stuff there for father-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, or your own sisters, brothers and whatever. So hopefully that will be popular on Sydenham High Street as we stand up there with Santa hats on.
Okay, so you'll be selling on the streets of Sydenham effectively outside.
We will. This game is about sales. You've got to get out there and sell, and we've got a little sort of forecourt, I suppose you call it, outside the front, and we've got movable tables, and we've got a lot of enthusiasm and team who are sort of very, very good. And just come along, have some mulled wine, hot cider. We did hot beer once; it was terrible, but beer is best served cold. But yeah, get your Christmas presents locally, I think, is probably going to be the message for everyone this year, actually. Yeah,
definitely. And I can vouch your beer is delicious. So. Okay, great. We asked you to bring along an object tonight that symbolises lockdown for you. Have you got it?
Yes. So I was going to bring my bike because that's my symbol of lockdown, but I haven't. So instead, I've got this, which is a Canadian mashing mixer stick thing, and I know it's from Canada. I know that. And basically, it's what we use when the team are doing the kind of mashing with the malts and barley. This is what they use in our fermenters, basically. And the reason I've chosen, it was really expensive, actually. You wouldn't believe it. I did want to cry when we had to buy this, but you have to have one. But the reason I've chosen it is because it's made from one piece of solid wood. So even though it has holes in it, actually, it's very strong. And I think that really typifies and summarizes our team, which is, we are a strong unit and there's no joins. And by working together, we're going to get through to 2021, please God, safely and very well. So that's really why I chose this today.
Oh, that's a great item. Thank you. And you educated me there. I was just thinking, what would you mash with that? Like potatoes? No, okay. Of course, it's to do with the beer. Brilliant. Well, thank you. And we've got a couple of younger listeners that wanted to ask some questions to the grown-ups. So this one's come in from Jazz and Holly, who are 6 and 8, and they would like to know what your favourite food is.
So I've got a very poor sense of taste and sense of smell, unfortunately. So everything pretty much tastes the same. It's very sad. So I'm going to just say a chocolate there because I can taste chocolate. So that's mainly my big. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
A chocolate eclair, and are we talking chocolate eclair sweets, or are we talking chocolate eclair like the donut with cream inside?
It's the Marks and Spencer's version of a chocolate eclair, which are, they can remedy any day, really. They can make everything okay. So that's my tip, is 2 for £1.70. Everyone's a winner.
Great. You've got Mike on tech is nodding right now. He obviously understands exactly what you're talking about. Okay, well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been lovely to see you and great to hear that things are going well at Ignition. And yes, and you have been the first person to drop that Christmas bomb on us. But yeah, there you go. Thank you for that as well. No problem. Our pleasure. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye. Oh, fantastic. Yes. Lovely. And yeah, the beer is very delicious at Ignition. Very delicious. Okay, so our next guest is from a brilliant South London-based theatre company called Extant. So Extant is the UK's leading professional performing arts company of visually impaired artists and theatre practitioners. Over lockdown, they've been busy creating digital multi-sensory work such as Flight Paths and Rathband, and they're now working on their next project, I Say. Extant means still in existence, so it's the opposite opposite of extinct. And after 23 years of creating rich work, they have clearly lived up to their name. We are very excited to have the artistic director, founder and CEO of Extant, who is sometimes a DJ, Maria Oshodi.
Hi, hello.
Woo, hey,
Yes, rich,
hello,
but
Maria.
hello. I love the introduction. Rich, but always affordable work. So let's just have that as a little bit of an edit there. Always affordable.
Yeah, I like it. Rich but affordable. Rich in some ways, but definitely affordable. Fantastic.
Always,
how are you?
Always, yeah. Really good. Yeah, really good. Really good.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Here.
Good. Thank you. I have to ask, do you prefer DJing or do you prefer writing shows? Which is your real love?
Well, I actually don't write shows anymore for the company. I direct them. And I think that DJing and directing, apart from both beginning with Ds, are very similar because when you're DJing, you're compiling, you're kind of constructing a set, you're responding to your audience, who are listening, hopefully dancing. And similarly, I've never thought about this before, and similarly, I guess when you're directing, you're sort of doing the same thing. There's a kind of a concept or a theme or a mood that you're constructing and designing for an audience. It's just that your tools are different.
Oh yeah, that's great. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, great. Okay, so you haven't given me a definitive. You've managed to say both, which is probably sensible, actually. So you founded Extant in 1997. How did Extant come to be? How did it come to exist?
Well, I was working for an arts organisation at the time as a project manager, and the arts organisation was called Shape, who have now, they've moved to Peckham recently. So at the time they were based in Hammersmith, and I got to know quite a few visually impaired actors and performers through my work for Shape. And one thing that struck me was how miserable everybody was. They all were moaning about the fact they couldn't get any work, and it was difficult for them to get jobs within the disability theatre sort of sector because there was like no real understanding of the needs of visually impaired people at the time. There's a lot of emphasis on deaf, specific kind of theatre, but nothing for visually impaired people. And in the mainstream, forget it, because, at that time, and things have got better now, but then it was like really, really difficult. So I thought, why not? Let's do it for ourselves. I'm a big believer in DIY. Not me personally doing it in the home, being blind, but just in terms of life, life skills and life sort of advancement. Do it yourself, because you sit around for a lifetime waiting for somebody else to do it for you. So that's what we did.
Yeah, amazing. And 23 years is incredible for any company, really, and especially a theatre company, I think, to keep creating work. Do you ever find that challenging, having to come up with new ideas all the time, or is it something that kind of comes quite naturally to you?
Yeah, it does. 23. There's no way. When I first started this game, I thought, we'll just do this for the next 6 months and see what happened. And those 6 months have just sort of like, they've just sort of exponentially kind of grown and grown and grown and grown. So we find ourselves here, and because it's great fun, it is very challenging, and I don't think I'm very good at anything else apart from rowing. So the only thing I could possibly do practically for anybody, if say the whole world nearly did come to an end, but really everything just kind of like didn't exist that I currently do, I could row people backwards and forwards across the Thames. So until then, I just carry on with this. And yeah, it was. Yeah, it's been good. And I answered your question. No, I keep thinking there will be a time, but I just think you're just born creative. I think if creativity is what you do, if you get things going and see how it can be done, I think it just kind of generates itself. As long as your imagination is sort of kept sort of alive by observations around you, and suddenly knitting things together and in new ways, and thinking, maybe we should try this, we should try that. I think it's just never ends, really.
Yeah. And do you find you get that quite a lot from the people that you work with as well, because you have a really diverse range of practitioners and actors that are members of Extant? So do you find that you get quite a lot of inspiration from them as well?
No, not really. That's really unfair sometimes, but mostly it's me going, oh my God, let's do this. It's going to be like really, really crazy. Let's do this. And everyone goes, oh, and I go, come on, don't think about it. Let's just go. A bit like your Shannon, Shannon, who we both know.
I was just thinking that. Yes.
And then suddenly everyone's doing it, and they all come out the other end all a bit shell shocked and go, oh my God, did we just do that? And then, you change the world. It's good.
You need people like that. That is a director hat on for sure. And so you've been pretty active over lockdown. Extant's produced 2 very different digital shows over lockdown. One, Rathband, which was based on by Christopher Hogg, which is based on PC David Rathband, who was shot and blinded in Durham by Raoul Moat, which some people will remember that. I would think that was sort of 10 years ago. Most people will remember that. So quite an emotive audio piece that you had. And what inspired you to tell that story? What made you think that was a particularly important story to tell now, sort of 10 years on from that event?
It really came from Chris, who created, he was a writer of the piece, and he's been, it was the script that we came across, and really, really thought it was brilliant, and we really wanted to produce it in the real world. But then when everything went into lockdown and we were coming up to the 10th anniversary, Chris was really keen on us doing something, and the only thing that we could do was to create this audio kind of platforming of the podcast of it, which had been created sort of about a couple of years ago. It won the best podcast on iTunes or something. I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but anyway, it won an award, and it's really, really well produced. But we thought, let's put an Extant spin on it and have a visually impaired presenter of this podcast in 3 parts, talking to camera to our audience, who will be, sort of like a Zoom audience. And he happened to be a visually impaired actor who was living up there in the northeast, in the very kind of estate that all of this kind of awful incident sort of unfolded 10 years ago. And so there was a personal touch to it, and we had the audience, sending in comments that got read during the intervals. It was really cool. I think it was really effective.
Yeah, and quite incredible. It kind of brought it into the present, I guess, having Robin there presenting as well and talking. It really made you sort of not relive those moments, but really feel a connection, particularly as that person was there, like you say, for as a witness to those events. It definitely brought it into the present. It was quite moving. And then you also you have Flight Paths as well, which is a very different story, and that's in co-production with Yellow Earth Theatre, and it's inspired by the Goze, who are visually impaired female medieval performers of Japan, who used to travel the country. And I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but it's really amazing as a digital platform, because you choose the direction that you go, and you can see, there's different elements of performance and things like that. whose idea was it to create that? Was it sort of something you discussed with Yellow Earth, or who kind of went to who and said, this has to be told?
Do you mean the original production?
The original production, sorry, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a collaboration. We worked as a kind of a team. There was Kamiko from Yellow Earth, she's the artistic director there. There's myself, and then there was Vicky Amadume, who is a movement. Well, she was a movement choreographer on working with us, but she's the director of Upswing Contemporary Circus company. And back in 2013, we got together to sort of do some exploration around music, audio description, aerial movement, and storytelling. And we worked with 3 blind performers as part of that, who were from Japan, Nigeria, and the USA. They all were artists that had all kind of travelled here to live in the UK. Takashi was a viola player, or Victoria, who's from Nigeria, is a soprano, and Amelia from America is an aerialist. And we've discovered some really lovely stuff, and we thought, oh my god, this is great, well, let's continue building up on it was Kamiko who introduced us this idea of the biwahoshi, who were these medieval blind Japanese storytellers who used to move around Japan. And so we thought, oh, connection of traveling around and traveling to the UK, great. And we started sort of working on this and developing it over the next sort of, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. It was only right in the very end last year that we discovered, as we were really going into our research around the biwahoshi, that there were this hidden female branch of this tradition called the goze. And we thought, wow, this is really cool. So we kind of spun the whole narrative around the goze's history and the 2 aerialists, with some input from Takashi and Victoria. So that was the sort of origins of it.
Yeah, and then over lockdown, you turned it into a digital experience as well.
Yeah, we toured the show as a live piece last year. We did some really interesting things with aerial movement and audio description. So we had the performers describing all their movements, but also all the effort that it takes as an aerialist to move in space and up those silks and upside down and inside out and round and round and round. And we also created this great kind of audio tracking. So where the performers moved in space, their voices went with their bodies, and it's really important for visually impaired people to be able to track where people are on stage. And often, like, they'll just amplify the voice by it coming out of a speaker. But with us, we had this amazing guy called Taryn working with us who technically set up the way in which they could pan the sound onto the performer's body. So it's really great. And then after that, we applied to the space for a commission to create it into a digital piece. And that was last year, but it takes like sometimes a year to sort out the contracts and the agreement and everything before commissioning is a very different process to applying for grants or anything. So it took us a year. So by the time we got to lockdown, we were ready to start on the commission, that had been in the pipeline for a year. So it all kind of worked out pretty well. And we worked remotely with our team. They're absolutely fantastic. We introduced animation so we used footage from the old production from last year, and then we integrated it with this really interesting goze character who speaks direct to the audience and tells about history, and then acts as an audio describer as well. And that's what we've got available online right now.
Yeah, and it's quite beautiful, actually. I thought that is very and also quite funny as well, which I think Extant's good at bringing humour into your work, aren't you, Extant? Which brings us nicely onto your current project, I Say, which it promises to be full of humour. Would you mind just telling us a little bit about what that's all about?
Yeah, well, I think you can tell from the title, is what it says on the tin. Because the I is spelled EYE, and it's So basically, it's a comedy show of about 15 visually impaired stand-up comedians doing 5-minute acts, one after the other. And we're presenting it at the Bloomsbury Festival, and we just found out today that we can actually, bugger Boris and his 6, people law rule, whatever it is. We're not going to have a live audience. No, we can't do that, but we're going to live stream the event. But we can have all of our 16 artists, or 15, 16 artists, in the same venue, and we're going to kind of create this kind of comedy store sort of feel, but it's a prohibition type venue. So there'll be a bit of a speakeasy sense, because everything, obviously we can do what we are doing, because this is going to work situation. It's not a social situation, but we're still going to kind of create it as if it is a social situation, that we're getting away with it. And so that's going to be the kind of idea behind it. And the tickets go on sale. Well, they're on sale now, actually. They're only a £5. And so, on the 17th of October, if you've got a Saturday night kickback with us, from 6 p.m. with a bottle of beer at home, and just get a window onto this little underground comedy club.
And that's the 17th of October, and tickets are available on the Extant website. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a link. There's the Bloomsbury Festival, and that's where you purchase tickets.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you, Maria. We also asked you to bring along one object that symbolises lockdown for you. Do you have that object with you? And could you describe it to us, please?
Yes, I do. Okay. I'll describe it and see if you can guess what it is, okay? So it is about palm size. It is a rectangle in shape. It is sort of smooth to the touch. It's got a warm sort of feel, I guess. It smells. It has a really pungent, not pungent, that's quite not the right word. The smell is quite heavily scented. It smells, in my mind, it smells pink, very, very pink, a kind of a very vivid pink. And what else can I say about it? Have you guessed what it is?
Soap? Is it soap? A form of soap?
Yes! Well done. That's exactly what it is. And remember when we kind of went into lockdown, and everyone was going a bit kind of mad, sort of looking for the stuff, it's obviously there's a whole toilet roll thing, but also all this thing about washing your hands, and so all the soap seemed to sort of completely kind of flow off the shelves. And I remember going into Boots, and the only soap that was left was their kind of, I don't know if I can say this, but it was their kind of own brand 4-pack, and I just grabbed it and I brought it home, and it was just the most awful smell, but I had to use this soap throughout lockdown because I couldn't get anything else for a while. And I had found this one, I think when I started to get my ordinary soap again, I threw these ones at the back of the cupboard, and I got them out recently, and it really brought back that beginning of the beginning of the spring lockdown feel. Oh God, I'll have to get rid of these.
Yeah. Well, I think we all can remember that time quite vividly, actually.
Yeah.
And also, a couple of our younger listeners wanted to ask you a question. Jazz and Holly, they are 6 and 8, and they wanted to know what's your favourite cake, which is an important question.
Oh, pineapple upside down cake.
Oh, yes. Nice. Nice. I feel like there's different there's layers and different textures to that cake. Very good.
If you haven't had any, please get your mummy to make you some, because it's absolutely gorgeous.
There you go, Jazz and Holly. That Jazz and Holly's mum. A challenge for you there. She'll be delighted. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, Maria. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been really lovely. And goodbye, Sydenham.
Yeah, thanks. Good luck with all your projects.
Thank you.
Bye, Maria.
Take care. Bye.
And you, bye. Oh, lovely. And if you want to check out all the amazing stuff that Extant have been doing, if you go onto their website, you can get onto Flight Paths and Rathband on there. And then they've got tickets for I Say on there as well. Great. So it's come to the time in the show where we say a great big thank you to someone in the local community. Yes, it's time to shout out to our local living legend. So every week we give a big thanks to somebody in the community that's nominated by you, that's gone above and beyond during this lockdown period. Now that can be anything. That could be somebody that threw a packet of chocolate buttons at you in a kind way, just when you needed them, a kind and safe way, or somebody that you know that's been working for the NHS every day. Anything that they've been doing, big or small, we would like to hear about it. So I think it's time that we had a look at who is wearing the Living Legend crown this week.
Living Legend.
What a legend.
Aw, thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Mariam Bishai. For this week's local living legend, I would like to nominate Mina and Iki, greengrocers, who run fresh and fruity with excellent efficiency, love and care to all their customers. They have been very helpful to so many people during lockdown, taking orders on the phone and delivering goods promptly. My thanks and gratitude to them. May they live long and serve the community in Sydenham with their love and care. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mariam. Thank you for writing in to nominate Mina and Ike, who run Fresh and Fruity Greengrocers in Sydenham. Thank you, Mina and Ike, for your kindness and generosity. You are clearly living legends. And thank you again, Mariam, for writing in about them. It's brilliant. Thank you so much. If you happen to know a local living legend and you would like to shower them with thanks, then we'd love to hear from you. So you can get in touch with us here at Sydenham Arts. You can email the podcast at podcast@sydenhamarts.co.uk, or you can get in touch with us over social media. We're on all of them. Or if you're in touch with your neighbour, you can ask your neighbour to write to us on your behalf. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Thank you for joining us. It's been wonderful to have you here. Thank you to all of our brilliant guests. It's been lovely chatting to you. Thank you to Mike, who's been on tech this evening. He's been most excellent. Remember, if you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel by just popping the button below. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on all of them. You can get all the exciting updates about Sydenham Arts, what we're doing, and you can see who we've got on the show next week. If you are keen to listen to this podcast again, which I completely understand, then you will be able to do so next week, because we have the audio version of the podcast that goes out across Spotify, Apple, Google, Anchor, all of the podcasting platforms of your dreams next week. Thank you again. It's been lovely. See you next week.